Hello, everyone. My name is Greg, and I'd like to welcome you to Sunburst's Sunday meditation service that we're bringing you online. Today's topic is appreciating everyday miracles. And I don't know about you, but when I think of miracles, I think of the Bible stories I was told as I was a young child. The story of Daniel, the prophet Daniel, being thrown into the lion's den. And the lions were so subdued and gentle that they were like kittens, and the prophet Daniel walked out of that lion's den alive. The story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who were thrown into the fiery furnace, and not a hair on their head was even singed. I think of Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt, and as they were being chased by the Egyptian army, Moses raised up his staff and opened up the Red Sea and parted the sea so that the Israelites could cross the Red Sea in safety. I thought it was a miracle that Moses could talk to Spirit through a burning bush. And when we get into the New Testament, there's certain things that stand out. Jesus' first miracle, when he turned water into wine at the wedding ceremony. He healed the sick. People that were blind from birth received their sight. He walked on water. What a miracle. What power over the elements. And, of course, raising his friend Lazarus from the dead. These are miracles that most of us have heard about, talked about, learned about in Sunday school. But today's topic is actually appreciating everyday miracles. So, have miracles ceased? Are there still miracles going on today? Are they going on daily? Do we have everyday miracles in our life? So miracles happen every day, and every day is full of miracles. There are many great minds who have echoed this very same idea. Albert Einstein once said, "There are only two ways to live your life. One is though nothing is a miracle, and the other is though everything is a miracle." Forrest Gump, another great mind, well, maybe a fictional great mind, but I remember him sitting on the bench talking to the lady, and this is where the life is like a box of chocolates line comes from. But he also said, "My mama told me that miracles happen all the time, every day. Some people don't think so, but I do." And Norm Paulsen, the founder of Sunburst and a direct disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda, said this. He said, "Look at the sun shining out there. Look at that blue sky and the waters upon the earth. What a miracle. Look at the mountains and valleys covered with Mother's natural images, her garden of life forms. Look out into space, into infinity, stretching away from us in every direction, filled with planets and stars and galaxies. Yes, just look at you and me. Oh, what a miracle life is that we are here. We are surrounded by the living presence of God in all images and life forms." Think for a minute about the incredible complexity of these human bodies that we live in. No two have ever been created the same. We wake up in the morning, we open our eyes, and we can see all those things around us. We can hear the noises, the songs of the birds in the morning, the sound of maybe our heater coming on. As we get out of bed, we can smell the coffee brewing, or we can sit down and have breakfast, and we can taste the eggs and the toast. We can hold that toast in our hand and feel the actual composition of that toasted bread. That's a miracle. Think about your heart. It beats approximately 72 times a minute. When? 24 hours a day, every day of your life. Think about your breathing. You breathe somewhere between 12 to 16 times a minute. When does it stop? Well, hopefully not until you don't need to breathe any longer. It just happens automatically without you thinking about it. You can eat a meal and within less than a day, those molecules that have been broken down by chemicals in your own body have taken those molecules, reassembled them, and made living, breathing flesh and blood. I think one of the greatest miracles is, accidentally cutting your finger or your thumb or something, working in the kitchen or out in the yard. And then you look down at that as you think about it 3 to 5 days later, and there's no evidence you ever cut yourself. Your body has become self-healing. It's healed itself. These things are miracles, and I think we overlook them sometimes. I have been creating podcasts based on Norman Paulsen's life, and particularly his autobiography, Life, Love, God, for this past year. And just recently, I have completed a podcast about his years as a merchant marine and joining the U.S. Marines. And some of the everyday miracles that stood out to me as I looked at these chapters with new eyes, with a new interest, were amazing. First of all, I think it was amazing that a 16-year-old boy, which Norm was when this started, when this happened with the merchant marine, a 16-year-old boy who felt strong enough about his responsibility to his family after his mother and stepdad had an accident that he dropped out of school, joined the merchant marine to try to help support his family because they were down to one income, with only his stepdad working and his mother being bedridden. So one of the hurdles that Norman had to overcome was that he was only 16 and he had to be 17 to join the merchant marine. So he took his birth certificate, put it in the typewriter, and changed his birth year. When he presented the birth certificate to the authorities at the Merchant Marine Center in San Pedro, they told him, well, we're going to have this birth certificate notarized, so go ahead and get it notarized and bring it back. And so he thought, oh no, I've got to find this and prove legally that this is my birthday, and I've got to have a notary sign it and testify that it's my signature and it matches my birth records. And so he walked down the streets of San Pedro, and down a side street he found an old woman who was a notary public. And he explained to her the story that his mother was ill, he needed to go to sea to make some money to help support the family. And she looked at him and said, I think you're big enough, no one will question this. And she notarized his birth certificate. That was a miracle. When he was finally assigned to a ship, he was immediately assigned to a Norwegian bosun. So the bosun runs the unenlisted crew, and this bosun, being Norwegian and Norm was Danish, had it out for him right from the beginning. And he told him, basically, I'm going to make your life a living hell here on the ship. And after his first night, never having had any mariner experience, because he was hired on as a able-bodied seaman, it was his responsibility to take a shift at steering the ship during the night. So he had 4-hour shifts and 8-hour shifts where he steered the boat. The first night that he did that was very chaotic because no one told him what to do, no one trained him. He basically had to figure it out for himself. The next day, the captain went crazy when he looked at the maps of where the ship had been the night before, and he called Norm up to the bridge and he said, were you drinking? What happened? Only a drunk sailor could steer this bad. And Norm explained that they left him with that duty, but he had no training. The captain quipped, it's a good thing that you didn't accidentally turn this ship around and sail us all the way back to San Pedro. So then he asked Norm an interesting question. He said, "Are you Danish?" And Norm said yes. And that's when Norm found out that all the officers on this ship were Danish. And so the Danish captain called his Norwegian bosun up and read him the riot act for not training Norm. And after that, Norm was being trained by the Danish officers and learned quite a bit. In fact, he learned so much in that 6 months on the ship as a merchant marine that Captain Anderson, that was his name, Captain Anderson actually invited him to come back and serve on their next voyage as a quartermaster, which was basically an officer on the ship in charge of basically steering and compass and surveying. There was an incident while they were on the ship that scared Norm. And in fact, he said for a moment he was full of fear. But he tried to walk into the galley or the kitchen on the ship, and this burly sailor said to him, "You can't go through here, Paulsen." And Norm thought he was kidding. And so Norm just started to push his way through, and the guy started swinging punches at Norm. And Norm backed up because he didn't want to fight. But suddenly he felt this power coming from his spine, moving into his arms and into his hands. And without even thinking, he grabbed the man in a bear hug, put his arms all the way around him, squeezed him, and then he picked him up and hoisted the man over his head and threw him. And the man hit the floor unconscious. And Norm felt horrible. He thought, "I've never hurt anybody before. I don't like this feeling." And the voice came to his mind from whatever heavenly messenger was there in the background and said, "He's all right, big boy. He needed to be taught a good lesson." So in my knowledge, the one person in this lifetime that called him big boy was Yogananda. And I believe Yogananda was probably watching out for Norm even before Norm had presented himself as a disciple. There was this interesting experience where Norm was steering the ship at night, and a very bright light appeared off the port side of the ship. And he called attention to that to other officers on the deck. And then while they were watching, and another one lit up on the starboard side. And then finally, one straight ahead of the bow. So there were 3 lights there. They decided to call the captain because the radar was not picking up any vessels at sea. The very first thing they thought of was that they were flares, but you can't send out flares from 3 different positions if there's no ships or boats or any craft out there. And when asked about these lights, Norm asked one of the officers, "Have you ever seen anything like this before?" And the officer said, "No, I've never seen anything like this before, but strange things happen in the open sea." Norm was to find that out several months later as he was out doing bow watch in the evening, looking up at the stars and then looking back down at the sea. And he began to ask these questions out loud to himself. Are there any other people in the universe? Are there other planets that have people on them? Are we all alone in the universe? And these voices were coming to his head, answering every one of his questions as he asked them. These were all small miracles. The definition we normally use for a miracle is that it's an extraordinary event that goes against nature and cannot be explained by science. That's how we explain the big miracles of the Bible. But when we're talking about everyday miracles, I think a better definition would be seeing Spirit's handiwork everywhere in your life. So that brings us to a thought, and I meditated about this over the last few weeks. How do we better appreciate the miracles that are happening in our lives every single day? And I came up with 3 things. The first is, in order to see those miracles every day, we need to acknowledge the fact that there are powers greater than ourselves that are running this universe. We have to acknowledge that Spirit exists. and that Spirit is constantly creating and recreating this universe. The second thing is we need to have a level of awareness. If we go around in our life thinking about our past or constantly planning our future, we're not living in the present. And so what we can do to help us in having greater awareness or actually living in the now is to stop. Look around you. Listen to what you hear. Smell the smells, feel the wind. See the animals, watch the birds. As you observe these things, you're living in the now. And when you live in the now, that's when you recognize miracles. And the third thing would be gratitude. If we were to start our day every day with thanking Spirit for all that we have and all that we are and the fact that we're alive, and show our gratitude for the places we live and the jobs that we have and the people that we know and our families, we're going to recognize more miracles in our life. As we prepare to go into meditation together for a few minutes, I'd like us to focus on what are the miracles in our lives today. Let's acknowledge the part that Spirit plays in our lives, and let's express gratitude for all these blessings, all these miracles that are happening in our day without even thinking about it. So please find a good seated position with your spine straight. Close your eyes. Focus on a point 6 to 8 inches out in front of your third eye, which would be right about here. 6 to 8 inches out, make that your focus. And once you've done that, begin to focus or watch your breathing. Watch your inhalation and the pause, your exhalation and the pause. Well, welcome back. I hope everyone enjoyed their meditation. While I was meditating this week, a thought came to me, and it came so clearly I felt like I should write it down. And so I did write it down, and it was, accept every day as a miracle, and you will begin to see miracles every day. Accept every day as a miracle, and you will begin to see miracles every day. One of my grandchildren's favorite Christmas movies is Polar Express. And in that story, Santa gives this young boy a bell, a sleigh bell. And when he rings the sleigh bell, it makes the most beautiful and sweet ringing sound that only individuals who believe in Christmas and Santa Claus are able to hear. And the little boy, because he has a hole in his pocket, loses his bell on his travels home on the Polar Express. And he's very sad about it, but the next morning, as he's opening his packages, he opens a small box and there's his bell with a note from Santa. You left this on the train. Or you left this on my sleigh. I don't remember exactly how it goes. And he picks up the bell and he rings it. And he listens to that beautiful sound. And his father goes, "Sorry, son, it looks like your bell is broken," because neither his mother or father could hear the bell. And the narrator, who is actually the little boy himself, says, "At one time, most of my friends could hear the bell, but as the years passed, it fell silent for all of them. Even Sarah, my sister, found one Christmas she could no longer hear the bell's sweet sound. Though I've grown old, the bell still rings for me, as it does for all those who truly believe." Sounds like an odd story to tell this time of year when we're so far away from Christmas, but the message is very clear. The bell is like the miracles that we want to see in our lives, or miracles are like the bell. If you truly believe in the miracle of your life, you will see the miracles every day. If you truly believe in the magic of the bell, the Christmas magic, you'll hear the bell. So it's the same idea. It goes back to what I learned in meditation, and that was, accept every day as a miracle, and you will begin to see miracles every day. Thank you. I hope that this finds you healthy and strong and happy and safe. Namaste, brothers and sisters.
So